Welcome to The Bell Rings, March 29th, 2022, hosted by Delta College.
Gloria Jean Watkins came to the earth in 1952 in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. She was born into a working-class, church-going family and grew up in segregated schools and a segregated world. A young poet, Gloria Jean was heavily influenced and guided by her maternal grandmother, Belle Blair Hooks, a strong and opinionated woman. Gloria Jean, in honor of her grandmother, would eventually take the name Bell Hooks as a writer. And in an effort to place focus on her work more than her name, she purposefully chose to use lowercase letters only. As a brilliantly talented young woman, Bell attended Stanford University and earned an MA in English and eventually a PhD at UC Santa Cruz with a dissertation on Toni Morrison. She was rightfully critical of the absence of interest in race issues and gender issues in higher education and scholarly circles. As such, she published poetry and writing focused on the intersections of race, sex, and class, systems of oppression and domination, feminism, activism, and the impact of white imperialist patriarchal domination in daily life. She became one of the leading public intellectuals of our lives and taught both English and African American studies at prestigious universities, including Yale, Oberlin College, City College of New York, and Berea College in Kentucky. Bell began writing Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism, her earliest mainstream work, when she was only 19 years old. Over her life, she published over 40 books and scholarly articles on topics of masculinity and patriarchy, self-help and engaged pedagogy, feminist consciousness and community creation, representation and politics, and much more. One fascinating fact is that she preferred handwriting her books. In her own words, I like to handwrite because I think differently when I do so. For me, the stages tend to be that I work something through my head and then I start writing it.
I always think that part of the genius of Bell Hooks, such as it is that I bring together standpoints that are often not brought together in our nation. You know, I bring together thoughtfulness about race, gender, class when I'm writing about love. I'm one of these fanatic readers. I read a book a day, a nonfiction book a day, and I'm a fanatical mystery reader, and I may read 2 mysteries a day. So I'm always bringing together, not unlike speaking freely, diverse ways of knowing. And I think that has been kind of the mark of Bell Hooks books, that you may be reading all about Buddhism, then you may read about gangster rap. There may be a whole combination of ideas, and I believe that in our deeply anti-intellectual society, most people read along very narrow lines and think along very narrow lines. So I think that the excitement many people feel when they come to a Bell Hooks book is, God, she's brought together these things that just seem like you would never have put them together.
The one and only Bell Hooks returned to the Essence in Berea, Kentucky on December 15th, 2021, at the young age of 69 years old. In an effort to honor her power, her spirit, her message, her movement, and her legacy, we humbly dedicate this space and moment to Bell.
Thank you, everyone, for participating in that short intro. If I may take just a moment as we transition into our very first segment of today, as presented by Professor Julie Jose of Delta College, I would love to ask if anybody would want to either type into the chat or potentially out loud express what is something that may have surprised you from that very, very short introduction to bell hooks. You can type it in the chat, or you can, just say it out loud, or raise your hand and say it out loud.
I'll say it out loud. I was extremely impressed by her determination and love for reading a book a day.
Okay.
Never heard that one before. Awesome. Just exciting.
Okay.
Inspirational.
Okay. And that's kind of where I was at, right? A book a day. And she said sometimes two, right? Unbelievable. And also, okay, what's being said in the chat? How early she started writing at the age of 19. And Lorraine says, I dyed my hair pink and shaved off my eyebrows at 19. Okay, so that's what some of us were doing at the age of 19. I think I was probably getting piercings in places that my parents didn't approve of at that time. Meanwhile, she is writing books and publishing. Thank you so much. Please, Dr. Best Green.
I just thought, how beautiful is that at 19, a Black woman in these United States of America was encouraged to know that her words mattered. When she did that at 19, I'm like, so many of us were trying to heal, trying to figure out, like, how can I live? And she had people in her life that were like, yes, you can live and you can write a book in the world. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for volunteering that. I absolutely agree. And I like how Clarissa says she hand wrote her books. Okay. Instead of typing in all of this technology that we can just and autocorrect and all that, handwritten books. It would be amazing to see those transcripts of her books, but it's just a beautiful, fact about her life. Did y'all know that she was a Buddhist and such a peaceful person as well? Unbelievable. And Ed Aguilar says he is honored to be a fellow UC Santa Cruz alumni. What are y'all, the banana slugs, right? Yeah, am I right?
Go
banana slugs. Okay, and I always thought that was so strange. Okay, but okay, fantastic. That's fantastic that you are alumni. You can connect to her then, yes? Fantastic, love it. And Dr. Cheshire is in the house. Love to Dr. Cheshire, representing from Folsom Lake College. Bell Hooks is all about love, and you're gonna feel love today. If you don't feel it yet, you're gonna feel love by the end of today. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody, as we segue into the presentation by Professor Jose. Are you ready, Professor?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen now. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And real quick, my name is Julie Jose. I teach English at San Joaquin Delta College. I'm also part of the Chicana, Latina Task Force. And I am honored. Bell Hooks is one of my favorite mentors. So now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's see here. For bell hooks, the college classroom is a potential site of social transformation if we embrace equity-based learning, self-actualization, and vulnerability. Her philosophy is the understanding of the classroom as a communal space in which everyone's presence is acknowledged and excitement is generated through collective effort. Her hope was for all to reach for teaching to transgress, to read it, to understand how education can be a practice of freedom. The cover of Bell Hooks' 1994 book, Teaching to Transgress Education as the Practice of Freedom, is as distinctive as its contents. Centered with a bright yellow field is a line drawing of La Escalera, the ladder. La Escalera was inspired by a Mexican card game, Loteria. The green and white reproduction of the card is a fitting sigil for Hooks' influential book. The ladder symbolizes not only step-by-step ascension, progress earned through a combination of patience and aspiration, intentionality and opportunity, but like Loteria, it symbolizes community and excitement. The family table and the classroom table are a communal space in which everyone's presence is acknowledged, and again, excitement is generated through collective effort. To be changed by ideas was pure pleasure, but to learn ideas that ran counter to values and beliefs learned at home was to place oneself at risk, to enter the danger zone. Home was the place where I was forced to conform to someone else's image of whom and what I should be. School was a place where I could forget that self and through ideas, reinvent myself. Teaching to Transgress is a work of genius, as Hooks herself admits. Chapter 1, Engaged Pedagogy, has given me the words and ideas to reinvent myself and my pedagogy. Hooks begins chapter 1 with the following. To educate as the practice of freedom is a way of teaching that anyone can learn. Anyone. Our work is not merely to share information, but to share in the intellectual and spiritual growth of our students. To teach in a manner that respects and cares for the souls of our students is essential if we are to provide the necessary conditions where learning can most deeply and intimately begin. Two of Hooks' most influential mentors and teachers were Brazilian scholar, philosopher, and activist Paulo Freire and Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Hooks tells us that, quote, Paulo was one of the thinkers whose work gave me a language. He made me think deeply about the construction of an identity and resistance, end quote. Paulo's ideas challenge conformity, calling teachers and students to action and reflection upon the world, a state of critical awareness in order to change the world. For Hooks, Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's concept of teacher as healer emphasizes the need for Hooks. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's concept of engaged pedagogy to teach. Monkman? I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Hooks tells us that.
No worries. Maybe you can speak to the slides.
Sorry. Two of Hooks' most influential mentors and teachers were Brazilian scholar, philosopher, and activist Paulo Freire and Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. Hooks tells us that, quote, Paulo was one of the thinkers whose work gave me a language. He made me think deeply about the construction of an identity and resistance, end quote. Paulo's ideas challenge conformity, calling teachers and students to action and reflection upon the world, a state of critical awareness in order to change the world. For Hooks, Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh's concept as healer emphasizes the need to arouse ideas. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened.
No worries. I'm wondering if maybe you can stop the presentation mode and maybe freeze on some of the frames that there may have been a glitch, and maybe just speak to the ideas that you were generating from those slides. Yeah, just like that.
Okay, I think I'll do that. Yeah, I am so sorry. I'm not sure how that happened.
No worries, no
I
worries. We're family
this is
here.
where I left. Okay, yeah, I think this is where I left off. That
No worries. Mhm.
maybe not here. Okay, introducing Thich Nhat
Yes.
Hanh.
Yes.
So for Hooks, Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, concept of teacher as healer emphasizes the need to be in harmony, mind, body, and spirit. Engaged pedagogy is to teach, not merely to share information, but to teach in a manner that respects and cares for the souls of our students is essential if we are to provide the necessary conditions where teaching can most deeply and intimately begin. Engaged pedagogy emphasizes well-being, which means teachers must be actively committed to a process of self-actualization that promotes their own well-being if they are to teach in a manner that empowers students. When education is a practice of freedom, students are not the only ones who are asked to share, to confess. Professors who expect students to share confessional narratives, but who are themselves unwilling to share, are exercising power in a manner that could be coercive. In my classrooms, I do not expect students to take any risks that I would not take, to share in any way I would not share. Many professors bring narratives of their experience into classroom discussions. It eliminates the possibility that we can function as all-knowing, silent interrogators. If the structure does not permit dialogue, the structure must be changed. Since elementary school, Hooks knew the importance of dialogue. Like Farah, she professed, if the structure does not permit dialogue, the structure must be changed. Now, the following images here is example of the result of engaged pedagogy. Engaged pedagogy sets the foundation for social structures, for changing social structures. A not so easy, yet ironically pleasant task. It requires collective effort entering the danger zone. Many are not reinventing themselves, many are not only reinventing themselves in the process, but reinventing their community, their dialogue, the world, creating new ways of thinking and seeing. Hooks tells us that what we do is more important than what we say or what we say we believe. Write this statement down and reflect upon it every single day. Learning new ideas and having a conversation about them is not enough. Acting upon them is necessary, part of being engaged social agents of change. Yet they may encounter values and beliefs learned at home. A risk, yes, but one that beckons much needed dialogue. This final slide is a painting by Indigenous Cree, Kent Monkman. His 2017 painting reflects collective rage, grief, and a sense of urgency. Monkman uses his art to affect social action and change, hoping to drive policy decisions and raise awareness of the many injustices as experienced through the eyes of the oppressed. The painting was dedicated to his grandmother, a survivor of the residential Indian school system. The scene encapsulates the anguish of the all too real history of aggressive assimilation that saw children torn away from their families and taken to residential schools. Now, the painting is quite controversial. So what I'm going to do is place this link in the chat for you to view the painting at your leisure. Okay. And that's it. So I apologize. I'm not sure what happened to the presentation. It rather ran smoothly when I did a practice last night. So that's the end of my presentation.
There are absolutely no worries to be had over the technological glitches, because your voice, when you read the slides, was so beautifully clear, and it included an element of emotion that we wouldn't have gotten from the recording anyway. So everything is in order and everything is as it should be. Thank you so much for that wonderful and powerful presentation. I would love to invite and to engage everyone in a dialogue about some of the key elements that were presented in Professor Jose's segment. I already see that Delaney had mentioned reflection in the chat, and I posted a question just to get people's juices flowing. I mean, we would love to have this time to hear student voice, and you can either type, but it's even more beautiful if we hear your voice as well. But let's connect to some of that dialogue. Let's enact that dialogue that both Freire and Bell Hooks knew was so critical for learning to take place. So here's a question to throw at y'all. In what ways does or might education lead to freedom? Has anybody here experienced liberation through their education? If so, how? And I would like anybody who wants to speak out loud, let's hear your beautiful voice and your powerful voice right now. And I'm going to post another question in the chat as well. Please, anybody can feel free. How does education lead to liberation?
It leads us to better economic opportunities, so we can build that generational wealth that a lot of disproportionately impacted communities haven't been able to. This is one way that we can at least get in there, right? And build our knowledge base and build our employment marketability, right? So that's a way to get more free.
Thank you so much for that. Truly appreciate you taking a moment to share, and we have some dialogue going. Vanessa, please.
Hello. So in my experience, I think what changed for me when I was actually being taught in high school was my liberating moment when my language and gender teacher told me about all these things that women could be. And from someone who lived a sheltered life, going from school and home, and then just watching nothing but all these Disney characters, all these white princesses, and not really understanding that I could be so much more than a princess. I could be like Princess Leia, a rebel hero. I could be a general and so much more. It really opened my mind to like, well, what can I do? What can I do that can really inspire me and others in the process?
Thank you so much for that. Wonderful. I'm so excited to start hearing voices and sharing. Okay, I see other hands that are raised. Let me make sure that I'm getting. Lorraine, please.
To just go off what Vanessa said, in my gender and women's history classes or lit classes, realizing that what I feel, my frustrations, my hurdles aren't alone, just not thinking like I'm the only one who's feeling this, feeling validated and knowing that other people throughout history have faced it, being a woman, being a minority, obviously not going through the same things Bell Hooks went through, but just seeing yourself reflected in the writings of other women of color, because throughout most of my education, it was reading what straight white men wrote, you know? So it it's really liberating to see yourself reflected.
Concur. Thank you so much for sharing, Lorraine. Wendy.
Hi. So my opinion on this is that I feel like education leads to freedom by like giving us like we learn in school and we have that knowledge, and that it's like kind of like a key to like guide us through like the world, you know?
Mhm.
And I also feel like being able to go to school like lets a student like find themselves, like, you know, be able to like realize that they can do more than what they think they can do.
Mm.
Sort of that
Absolutely.
situation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your powerful voices. I'm seeing a few comments in the chat. Isaac says Bell Hooks wrote Teaching to Transgress because she believed that the current teaching system during her time was inadequate. I wonder what qualities that educators lacked that prompted Hook to write this book. Interesting. If anybody has a response to that, you can feel free. We have maybe 2 more minutes before we're going to transition until our next segment. Let me honor a few more comments in the chat. Melissa Hernandez says, I think education, mainly books, have opened my eyes to seeing that there are other people who think like me and feel like me. This reminds me how united we can be if we speak up. Word, Melissa. That's what's up. I love it. Amanda is asking, can someone tell what Professor Jose's panelist presentation title? It was glitching. Professor Jose, your presentation title? Oh, she put a link in the chat. So I assume you can find that presentation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, the presentation title is Engaged Pedagogy. And the link is the work of art by Kent Monkman.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, we could talk about your presentation and all of these questions that were generated, you know, forever, but we got more people to present and we have to move forward. I want to ask everybody who is with us, family who is here with us today, familia, make sure that as the presentations are going, that any questions that come to your mind, you're writing them down so that you can potentially type them in the chat after the presentation is over. We don't want anybody to be distracted by the chat during the presentations, but make sure that you are engaging so that we can have a rich dialogue at the end of every segment, because that's what we're going for. And with that being said, it is time to move into our next segment as presented by Dr. Lisa William. Dr. William, are you ready?
I certainly am. Thank you so much, Dr. Hollinside, and thank you everyone for being here with us today to just honor and celebrate this profound, magnificent woman, Bell Hooks. So what I will do, I am a professor of English and Education here at San Joaquin Delta College, as well as CSU Sacramento. So let me go ahead and screen share. How are we with the screen share? Everything good there?
It's good, and you getting shout outs like, that's my professor, hey.
What's up, y'all? Hello, welcome. All right, so here we go. And let me know if the volume is okay.
And welcome. Here.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, perfect.
Greetings and welcome. Here, we present to you a visual reading of Bell Hooks' essay, Teaching New Worlds, New Words.
Uh-oh. My name is Malika Hollinside. I am Chair and Associate Professor of Ethnic Studies here at Delta College, and I will be offering a spoken word piece at the conclusion of this segment.
And I am Dr. Lisa William, Professor of English and Education, and I will serve as the speaker for this presentation. Like desire, language disrupts, refuses to be contained within boundaries. It speaks itself against our will in words and thoughts that intrude, even violate the most private spaces of mind and body. It was in my first year of college that I read Adrienne Rich's poem, The Burning of Paper Instead of Children. That poem, speaking against domination, against racism and class oppression, attempts to illustrate graphically that stopping the political persecution and torture of living beings is a more vital issue than censorship, than burning books. One line of this poem that moved and disturbed something within me. This is the oppressor's language, yet I needed to talk to you. I've never forgotten it. Perhaps I could not have forgotten it even if I tried to erase it from memory. Words impose themselves, take root in our memory against our will. The words of this poem begat a life in my memory that I could not abort or change. When I find myself thinking about language now, these words are there as if they were always waiting to challenge and assist me. I find myself silently speaking them over and over again with the intensity of a chant. They startle me, shaking me into an awareness of the link between languages and domination. Initially, I resist the idea of the oppressor's language, certain that this construct has the potential to disempower those of us who are just learning to speak, who are just learning to claim language as a place where we make ourselves subject. This is the oppressor's languages, yet I need it to talk to you. Adrienne Rich's words. Then, when I first read these words, and now, they make me think of standard English, of learning to speak against Black vernacular, against the ruptured and broken speech of a dispossessed and displaced people. Standard English is not the speech of exile. It is the language of conquest and domination. In the United States, it is the mass which hides the loss of so many tongues, all those sounds of diverse Native communities we will never hear. The speech of the Gullah, Yiddish, and so many other unremembered tongues. Reflecting on Adrienne Rich's words, I know that it is not the English language that hurts me, but what the oppressors do with it, how they shape it to become a territory that limits and defines, how they make it a weapon that can shame, humiliate, colonize. Gloria Anzaldúa reminds us of this pain in Borderlands La Frontera when she asserts, "So if you want to really hurt me, talk badly about my language." We have so little knowledge of how displaced, enslaved, or free Africans who came or were brought against their will to the United States felt about the loss of language, about learning English. Only as a woman did I begin to think about these Black people in relation to language, to think about their trauma as they were compelled to witness their language rendered meaningless with a colonizing European culture, where voices deemed foreign could not be spoken, where outlawed tongues, renegade speech. When I realized how long it has taken for white Americans to acknowledge diverse languages of Native Americans, to accept that the speech their ancestral colonizers declared was merely grunts or gibberish was indeed language, it is difficult not to hear in standard English always the sound of slaughter and conquest. I think now of the grief of displaced homeless Africans forced to inhabit a world where they saw folks like themselves inhabiting the same skin, the same condition, but who had no shared language to talk with one another, who needed the oppressor's language. This is the oppressor's language, yet I needed to talk to you. When I imagine the terror of Africans on board slave ships, on auction blocks, inhabiting the unfamiliar architecture of plantations, I consider that this terror extended beyond fear of punishment, that it resided also in the anguish of hearing a language they could not comprehend. The very sound of English had to terrify. I think of Black people meeting one another in a space away from the diverse cultures and languages that distinguish them from one another, compelled by circumstance to find ways to speak with one another in a new world where Blackness or the darkness of one's skin and not language would become the space of bonding. How to remember to reinvoke this terror? How to describe what it must have been like for Africans whose deepest bonds were historically forged in the place of shared speech to be transported abruptly to a world where the very sound of one's mother tongue had no meaning. I imagined them hearing spoken English as the oppressor's language, yet I imagined them also realizing that this language would need to be possessed, taken, claimed as a space of resistance. I imagine that the moment they realized the oppressor's language, seized and spoken by the tongues of the colonized, could be a space of bonding, was joyous. For in that recognition was the understanding that intimacy could be restored, that a culture of resistance could be formed that would make recovery from the trauma of enslavement possible. I imagine then Africans first hearing English as the oppressor's language and then rehearing it as a potential site of resistance. Learning English, learning to speak the alien tongue, was one way enslaved Africans began to reclaim their personal power within a context of domination. Possessing a shared language, Black folks could find again a make community and a means to create the political solidarity necessary to resist. Needing the oppressor's language to speak with one another, they nevertheless also reinvented, remade that language so that it would speak beyond the boundaries of conquest and domination. In the mouths of Black Africans in the so-called New World, English was altered, transformed, and became a different speech. Enslaved Black people took broken bits of English and made of them a counter language. They put together their words in such a way that the colonizer had to rethink the meaning of the English language. When the slaves sang, "Nobody knows the trouble I see," their use of the word nobody adds a richer meaning than if they had used the phrase no one, for it was the slave's body that was the concrete site of suffering. And even as emancipated Black people sang spirituals, they did not change the language, the sentence structure of our ancestors. For in the incorrect usage of words, in the incorrect placement of words, was a spirit of rebellion that claimed language as a site of resistance. Using English in a way that ruptured standard usage and meaning so that white folks could often not understand Black speech made English into more than the oppressor's language. An unbroken connection exists between the broken English of the displaced, enslaved African and the diverse Black vernacular speech Black folks use today. In both cases, the rupture of standard English enabled and enables rebellion and resistance. By transforming the oppressor's language, making a culture of resistance, Black people created an intimate speech that could say far more than was permissible within the boundaries of standard English.
Okay, and if we could just, show our faces and give some snaps, okay, for a masterful way of presenting text through such beautiful imagery and so powerful. And I'm hoping there's, oh my gosh, for days we could have feedback and commentary about that piece alone. And we will welcome dialogue and commentary in just a moment. If you could hold your questions and your thoughts for a moment, type them into the chat. Don't press enter yet. Don't press enter yet, but you can type your reflections into the chat. And we are going to segue into that dialogue in just a moment. Thank you so much, Dr. William, for that beautiful visual representation of Belle's essay. And in follow-up to that, I am going to offer a spoken word piece that is a recap, and it was stimulated and inspired by the words, the content, the theme, and the messages of that essay. So without further ado, I am going to present. Thank you for your patience with our technology. And again, this poem is in the spirit and honor of the very vernacular that disrupts the colonizer's language. Some of y'all gonna feel me. Some of y'all might be a little lost, but hang in there, fam, because we're gonna get through this. And here we go. As we marinate a sec on the knowledge Belle was spitting, let's chop it up and think about just how hard her words was hitting. The language of the oppressor, man, that's so dang deep. Game recognized game, so all y'all better peep. I can't help stop thinking about that wicked slave ship though. Unable to share our fear in words with ones from other tribes. Yo, the sheer necessity and comfort of what became co-opted speech, from the terror of the waves to the horror of the beach. So harsh to the ears, the evil sound of capturers' tongues, the r's and the thes and the r's and the ungs. Our freedom forced to translate through the beating of the drum. At any moment possible, the potential of agony and hurt. At every chance possible, then, our messages covert. We took their words and transformed them to create something that was ours. We took their evil culture and grew our own sacred flowers. And ever since those days, we've been ducking, steady dodging in ways even the Most High must chuckle to imagine. While we was finna get they water, pick tobacco, pick they cotton, tripping off how massa and Mrs. could be so rotten. Word is bond. I can't call how to even call these folks human. Can't believe how they just carry on the evil they be doing, man. I'm just saying, we be hoping, we be wishing, we been praying for some miracle for centuries that God just must be delaying, that humanity's restored and Black and brown people can prosper. 2022 and we still watching devils cross burn? Nevertheless, somehow we always manage to get by. And even through the struggle, we stay flossing, damn, we fly. We so damn dope, the world can't even help but envy and imitate us. Now commercials talking about, scoop, there it is, culturally appropriate us. Old Navy ads, white families, hip hop dance routines, straight whack. Want every aspect of the culture except for skin too black. Wait, I'll take that back. Our mamas, they want that too. Tanning beds and lip injections. For real, these females be too through. That's right, I'm throwing shade. It's about time that someone do it. Because they opt in and out at will. We can't choose to not go through it. I'm dead ass serious now. Y'all feel me? We in too deep to quit it. This world is off the chain and most of y'all are too sick with it. By now, you either down or you feel some type of way. But I'm gonna keep it moving because yo, haters gonna hate. For all the while, they call us ghetto. They're gonna keep on stealing. And when we call them out, they're gonna be all up in their feelings. Might try to compensate by Facebook posts of Black Lives Matter, selfies at a protest with their Starbucks cup or at a March for Justice. But wait, it's been a sec since I seen one. I guess the fad is over for the time until the next time they need one. This world is off the chain, and it seems that folks just gonna keep on tripping. No matter what goes down, y'all won't ever catch me slipping. This poem is livicated to the ones who came before, millions upon millions of lives who suffered at the shores. Don't let television fool you or take Waynology harm your mind. Remember, politics and politicians want you blind. Down pressure keeps us shackled. It could never bring us up. Peace to all my peoples who stay down no matter what. I appreciate love the chance to get to break down what's at hand. In my own words, to your own ears, I hope you can overstand. Peace. Power to the people. All right, y'all. And that's how we do it. Thank you so much. Okay, I got little snaps. I got a few snaps. Okay.
Got little snaps, big claps,
okay.
Raising the roof, all that.
Word and word. I will say word until I'm done.
All that.
All right, cool.
Thank you, Dr. Hollinside. That was fire, as we expect, as usual.
Always.
Awesome. I want to make connections here to the power of this particular essay by Hooks. I mean, she's powerful. We know this. For those of us who have spent a good portion of our lives studying her life and her work, her passing, her transitioning to the ancestor realm took us by surprise, and yet we're so blessed and honored to have the legacy of what she's been able to teach us. I feel like I'm a student of Belle, though I've never met her, but I feel like I know her. And when she published Teaching to Transgress, 1994, it was the same year that I had finished my master's degree. And the words on the page resonated so deeply with me because it was at that time that I was finishing a master's in education, emphasis teaching English as a second language, the first and only African-American at the University of San Francisco in that program. And when I entered that program, I had professors who were surprised that an African-American woman would be pursuing the teaching English as a second language emphasis, because of course, why would that resonate for me was one of the questions asked by the coordinator of the program. And fascinating, the conversation with this particular professor and wanting her to understand, well, don't you understand and know the history of Black English vernacular, African-American vernacular speech? And my thesis technically focused on those very issues. So it was focused on the history, the origin, the West African origins of African-American vernacular English. That was my focus. And so that being said, Belle's words, those 13 words, this is the oppressor's language, yet I needed to talk to you, not only spoke to my academic mind, but it also validated and spoke to a family narrative, a cultural narrative, an experience of being Black and other minoritized populations living in the United States and living in colonized spaces where in order for your survival, you have to acculturate, maybe not assimilate, but acculturate in order to survive within this particular context. And so a couple of comments I'd like to make without taking too much time, because I could go on at length, but there are a few quotes that I want to share here besides the power of the statement, this is the oppressor's language and I needed to talk to you. Language is a chief vehicle for deploying power, whether constructively or destructively. We know it's a social asset used to benefit some, privilege some, and disenfranchise the powerless. And another quote, Gloria Anzaldúa, if you really want to hurt me, talk badly about my language. And she speaks about ethnic identity being the twin skin to linguistic identity. I am my language. We are our language, right? And she speaks about that in Borderlands La Frontera. So those two quotes and Hook's words are profound for me for so many reasons, because we enter spaces in which people are invalidated based on their identities, based on how they use language. And that's a tension as a language teacher that I grapple with daily, because I understand how incredibly important identity is tied to memory, it's tied to cognition, it's tied to emotion, you know. And what's really fascinating about this, you really want to know how an individual speaks, piss them off. Tap into the heart of who the person is, and you're going to get that true speech. Rapid fire off the tongue, you want to hear it, here go, right? So how do we create spaces where we honor the full humanity of people and allow language to come through in an authentic way in our classrooms and our academic spaces and our workplaces, where we're not sitting in these contexts that are contrived, where we're in a mask, playing a game to keep some people comfortable. And who are we keeping comfortable? And for what reason are we keeping certain people comfortable? Why aren't people free to come into the space and communicate in a manner in the space to be heard and affirmed for what they're bringing? But we know that there's the sanctioning that takes place around language, whether it's for students or for faculty who are from marginalized and historically underrepresented and dispossessed communities, right? So you're constantly navigating space. And what kind of space are we speaking about? We're constantly navigating white space in the United States, whether it's a student, staff, or faculty member, right? So I want to give us time for some dialogue around this, but these are issues that I've taught about for years, that are near and dear to my heart, certainly because of personal family history, the disciplines that I teach, the types of issues that I believe are important and need to be centered within the context of pedagogy and andragogy. And you know, I think we need to begin to create spaces where we reconstruct and reimagine how we enable a humanized workplace, a humanized learning environment where true language is validated and the beauties of all the Englishes we all utilize. So I'm going to pause there for a bit because I want to get my co-conspirator in on this, and then get other people.
Here's what I would love, because we have some questions and y'all have something to say about this. We are at 4 o'clock, and how time flies when we are having such a wonderful, engaging event and space. For time's sake, what we will do is honor our Professor Johnston and her presentation, and then we will revisit that for any of y'all who are down. If you really down, we're gonna see who's down, because at 4:30, if you wanna hang in and join in this discussion, I'm gonna be around. I know that Dr. William will be around. So anyway, let's just marinate on this for a second. Let's transition into Professor Johnston's presentation. And Professor Johnston, can I just, like talk about who we be to each other, please? I have to. Everybody, this is my best friend in the whole entire world, and we've been down since ninth grade. I'm in ninth grade, she's in 8th grade. We're going all the way back to 1986, y'all. This is my best friend and a prolific English educator from Chabot College. This is Professor Carmen Johnston.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and feel so honored and just a lot of humility getting to be in this room and just witness all these powerful presentations by some amazing thinkers. So I am going to get my stuff together here. I'm also doing the little Canva thing. So let me just share my screen. So yeah, like Dr. Hollenside said, my name is Carmen Johnston, and I'm an English professor at Chabot College, where I've been teaching at for about 15, 16 years now. And yes, we know each other from back in the day. So today I'm hoping that I will get an opportunity to share my love and appreciation for bell hooks. I'm really excited to talk about her as a Black feminist. I think that we have been really introduced to her as a Black woman, as a thinker and an educator. And now I get to shine a light on who she is as a feminist and how much that meant to me and has impacted my life and, you know, thousands of women around the world and the whole movement for feminism. And I'm also hoping that through this presentation, we can do a little bit of clarification about what feminism is and what it is, which is why I titled this presentation, Bell Hooks and the Dirty Word, right? Because we all have a lot of feelings about the word feminist or feminism. And as an English teacher, words really matter to me. Some words have, you know, well, all words have power, and some maybe have like negative connotations and some have positive connotations. And in our society, feminism, for some reason, has a negative connotation and is seen as a dirty word, as a bad word almost. A lot of women, you know, agree with everything that feminism is about, but will never call themselves a feminist. So let's take a look at a few things here. So today I'm going to be referring to two books by bell hooks. The first one is called Feminist Theory from Margin to Center. And this is a very, very popular book. Like if you were taking a women's studies class or any class that is trying to think about sex and gender and sexism and male domination, this is a really quintessential book to use. And so I've used it a lot in my US women's literature class. And then Feminism is for Everybody, which I really, really love as a title. And it's another great book to her and a great book to introduce folks to the ideas of feminism. One of the things that I really loved about bell hooks is that she was very much about, she wanted to communicate to the people. She wanted to be able to write something that her grandmother might be able to pick up and read. She wanted to make her intellectualism and her thinking accessible to everybody. And Feminism is for Everybody is a very accessible book, and I've used it in my composition classes. So this is a quote from her about feminism, from Feminism is for Everybody, and it says, masses of people think that feminism is always and only about women seeking to be equal to men. And a huge majority of these folks think feminism is anti-male. Their misunderstanding of feminist politics reflects the reality that most folks learn about feminism from patriarchal mass media, right? So our ideas of feminism are basically coming from somebody else, that they're not necessarily about the true meaning of feminism at all. We're gonna do something called a chat waterfall. So the question is, so you're gonna put this in the chat and don't write, or you can start writing, but don't click send just yet because we're gonna do a little waterfall. So the question is, what does feminism mean to you? So I want you to just write your response in the chat. And when I say go, you're gonna hit send, and then we'll see this very cool waterfall happening in the chat. We'll see all these messages. So just write a little definition, or what do you think feminism is? What does it mean to you? What images or ideas come to your mind when you think about feminism? I'll just say that one of the things that I love about Bell Hooks is that she's just a badass. I mean, she is not afraid to go up against the oppressor at all, the dominant culture, and to speak out and speak up for what is true. And she was a devout feminist. That was a big part of her identity and a big part of the way that she walked in the world. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys about this today. So go ahead and hit go, and let's see the waterfall. You see it? Oh, so cool.
Refreshing. It's so refreshing.
All right. Yeah. So we have some really cool talk about interdisciplinary, intersectional approach, having equal rights, right? So a lot of times when we think about feminism, it's about equal rights, equal opportunity, being able to be yourself and do what you want, not being compared to others, right? Freedom, justice, being a critical thinker, independence, motherhood, being a female, being able, the elimination of gender as a category, respect, that all people are equally valuable. Feminism is a fight for gender equality. Feminism means freedom and equity among all genders. It is not anti-male, it is pro-humanity, right? So these are all being unafraid to stand up for yourself as a woman and for other women and our issues as well, right? Feminism means that the feminine spirit is powerful, magical, and natural, right? When it is suppressed, we all suffer, and for generations, right? So there's some really, really powerful ideas and definitions of feminism. And a lot of times people have very negative ideas about feminism. They hate men, that they don't shave their armpits, that they don't wear bras, and they do all kinds of weird things. But let's see what Bell Hooks has to say about what feminism is. So she says, feminism is a struggle to end sexist oppression. Therefore, it is necessarily a struggle to eradicate the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, as well as a commitment to reorganizing society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desire. So she is talking about that feminism is about liberating all people, right? That there's really no way that women can be liberated if everybody isn't liberated, and really about reorganizing society that's in a non-capitalistic way, right? That's not about taking resources from people or about just getting our material needs met, right? And I think that last piece, the economic expansion and material desire, is really important because we're going to think about, you know, somebody that we all really love a lot, and whether or not, you know, how does this person sit in our ideas. And what Bell Hooks is saying is feminism. So she's really concerned with everybody's liberation. So I'm going to share another quote by her. So in Feminism for Everybody, part of what she does in this book is give a historical perspective on feminism, on the feminist movement, about like what happened, right? How did this movement come about? And so in this quote here, she's talking about, she's referring to how capitalism has used a beauty industry to attempt to demolish the work of the feminist movement, right? So back with a vengeance, sexist images of female beauty abound and threaten to undo much of the progress gained by feminist interventions. And so I'll just say, as someone who, you know, grew up in the 70s and 80s, coming like straight out of the feminist movement, where there was such this like free to be, this real open perspective on femininity. It was a lot about, it was about being natural, about being proud to be a woman, to now where we've kind of moved into this, what do you young people say, the bad bitch phase, right? Where it's about hair and makeup and getting your bag, and just such a different perspective on what it is to be a woman. And a lot of that is because of capitalism, you know, is like sees us as a moving target, and it changes and switches and takes the things that we care about and manipulates us in so many different ways. So it's real important that we're able to, there's a lot of ways that, you know, people claim to be feminists and they push their ideas onto us, and we have to really think critically about what these folks are saying. So let's hear what Bell Hooks has to say about our girl. Now, I'm just gonna give a little, you know, preface. I love Beyonce too. Okay, Beyonce, I love her very much. So, you know, but this is a time for us to think critically. So here we go. Hope you can hear this. This is from the New School in 2014.
It's really low.
In the sense of, especially in terms of the impact on young girls. I actually feel like the major assault on feminism in our society has come from visual media and from television and videos. I mean, just think, where would do we even know of late any powerful man of any color who's come out with some tirade against feminism? The tirades against feminism occur so much in the image making business, in what we see.
So this, you know, was an interview from the New School, and she's with a couple of other people, and this was in 2014. So this is, you know, this is post Flawless, right, by Beyonce. It's the post the Beyonce album, and it's pre-Lemonade, right? So I'd be curious to see, you know, how Bell Hooks would interact with Beyonce now. And so when I was thinking about this quote, thinking about that video and looking through her writings, I was wondering, like, well, where is she coming from? Like, why does she think this about Beyonce? And so I just pulled a couple of quotes together that I think help us kind of contextualize why she has this perspective on Beyonce. And so she talks about this whole idea of reformist feminism, and that's the feminism that we're experiencing now. Reformist feminism became their route to class mobility, right? So she's talking about women, particularly white middle class women. They could break free of male domination in the workforce and be more self-determining in their lifestyles. While sexism did not end, they can maximize their freedom within the existing system. So they didn't really challenge the system, but they figured out how to maneuver in the system so that their own personal lives could go well. So it became less about like all women's lives going well and more about our individual lives going well. So when we talk about women trying to get the bag, you know, or just all the different ways that we might use other women's labor in order to help our lives go better. So if we hire someone to help us clean our house, childcare, right? A lot of those low-paying jobs that are done by women, you know, middle-class women use to help their lives go well, right? And so there's all these, and then that's what's sold to us, that like, that's what being free is. That's what being a feminist is. That's what it is to have all these choices, that now you get to be almost in the role of the exploiter and oppressor. And so it's hard because Beyonce is such a model to us in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, you know, she does exploit us, and a lot of her music is about materialism and material gain. And so this is another quote, you know, where she's talking about kind of what women actually do get supported in our society. It is evident that society is more responsive to those feminist demands that are not threatening, that may help maintain the status quo. Particularly as regards work, many liberal feminist reforms simply reinforce capitalist, lateralist values, illustrating the flexibility of capitalism without truly liberating women economically. You know, and there's so many things to say about this. I mean, one thing she talked about in the book is this old school commercial. I know you remember Malika Charlie. I bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. You know, this woman's going out to work and she comes home and cooks, and then she makes her husband or partner never forget he's a man, right? So while all these women are going out and working, there's still all this labor that they have to do at home, right? And also this emotional labor for a man. And the feminists, our current feminist movement really struggles to address that piece. And so that's what Bell Hooks is talking about when she's talking about feminism, right? It's not about girl power or, you know, looking cute or being the baddest bitch, that it's really about the liberation of all people and the liberation from sexist domination. And so I just want to leave you with this last quote from her. Again, just to clarify, feminism is the struggle to end sexist oppression. Its aim is not to benefit solely any specific group of women. It does not privilege women over men. It has the power to transform in a meaningful way all our lives. Thank you.
Woo! What an enlightenment. Yes? Y'all feel me? I mean, didn't she break it down? Did she break it down or did she not break it down? For those of us who may have entered this space unclear of really what is the point of feminism? Okay, so I'm seeing some wonderful reactions in the chat. Okay, thank you so much for bringing it. Okay, we got a yes, baby. Okay, in the chat. I love to voice the comments in the chat. So powerful. Thank you so much, Professor Johnston. Now, again, there is a dialogue that will rightfully and necessarily follow. But because it is 4:18 and we still have the one and only Elvin Nathan
I yield.
Jones.
I yield.
Why? Oh no, because you're in a dance space. So Professor Johnston, I know that you have a time frame and I don't know if you have to leave at 4:30, but thank you so much for your offering and for breaking it down, sis. Thank you so much. We're going to transition into the dance space of dear heart, dear friend, dear loved one, Elvin Nathan Jones, and we will continue the dialogue on all of everything that you heard today following this next segment. Thank you so much, everybody, for your engagement thus far. Hang in there, y'all. Don't let those numbers drop. It's 4:19. We got y'all till 4:30, at least, minimally. Okay, go ahead then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be on this panel. Queen Dr. Malika, Queen Dr. Lisa. I'm a graduate of the Multicultural Education Program 2011. Dr. Lisa was my professor, and Queen Dr. Malika and I go way back to maybe 2004.
Four-ish, 3, 4.
And then we took Dr. Goodrich's class together and learned all about the Catherine Dunham technique, which is a great tie-in to what I'd like to talk about. Dr. Lisa was talking about language, and one of the ways that African people in this continent were able to communicate was through dance, and dance is as an embodied language. And I really, I want to shout out to my ancestor, Catherine Dunham, right now, because she spent her whole life's work was to travel the Caribbean and to see African people who were dancing and doing dances that they brought and were able to keep in their communities in Haiti through slavery, Haiti and the Cuba, and so I have a dance that I'll talk about in a moment. But the one thing that I wanted to share, well, let me just say, my name is Elvin Nathan Jones. I use he and they pronouns, and I teach. I'm very privileged to teach at a private high school, middle school, high school here in Seattle, and here I'm in this classroom that I'm transforming. This is the end of my 4th year here. The first class that I taught was called Black Social Dance. They hired me at a quarter-time position, Black Social Dance. Now I'm teaching Lindy Hop and line dance, and a class in the middle school called Performance Dance Skills, and another class in the middle school called Community Modern Dance. And in each of these instances, what I'm trying to communicate and to embody in my work is love, and how can I use love in my practice? Because I was so turned on by bell hooks when I was in grad school and before. I read Killing Rage, Ending Racism, Killing Rage. Anyway, that book in 1997 when I went back to school. I'm a late bloomer. I don't mind saying that. I'm 56 years young today, and I'm here embodying a practice, a lifelong practice of dance, and trying to find context for my dance practice to make sure that it elevates, it liberates, it helps people to understand not only themselves, but the world in which we all reside. And so bell hooks turned me on. This is my presentation, by the way. I'll transfer and show you an example of a dance, but I want to just spit this out. Here's my quote from bell hooks, and I'm calling it in from, here it is, Teaching Community, a Pedagogy of Hope, chapter 11, Heart to Heart. And she says this, because we should have a definition of love if we're gonna, if we're gonna keep going. Where are those hearts at? She says this from her book, and All About Love, New Vision. She says, I defined love as a combination of care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, respect, and trust. Trust. How as an educator can I help the children to help themselves to understand that I can trust them and they can trust me? It's a two-way street here. We are moving like this, just like Stacy Lattisaw said, love on a two-way street. Okay, now I want to get to the dance, because this last trimester, we have trimesters here. So I had a trimester long class, 7th and 8th graders, and I'm teaching this class. It's called Performance Dance Skills. I don't know why I named it that. And I was wondering, but I just had to go with it. And so here it is. I'm teaching them in this room how to do a flat back, all this sort of technical understanding of dance. And I could see them going like this and sort of like, getting sleepy. And then some of the students would pull out their laptops and start playing video games. And I was like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And so then one day I was like, hey, how about karaoke? Let's have karaoke today. And they said, yeah, all right, Elvin. So they call me Elvin. So then I said, all right. So we got into karaoke. And what did I witness? I witnessed some beauty in action, because the students then were able to show me where their love was, what they were loving in terms of the music that they were interested in. And then they started to do duets and trios. And I was like, okay, here we go. Let's meet them where they are. And so I went, and then we had a Christmas break. And over the Christmas break, I looked at a lot of YouTube videos, and there was a video of a good friend of mine, their child, I think they use the pronouns they, them, but their child every year does a parody of Justin Bieber. Now, I have my own feelings about Justin Bieber, but I didn't, I was like, okay, well, so, but this child did this parody of Justin Bieber and did all these poppin' dances and had the whole thing and the hair and the whole thing. And so I said, so then I showed it to my students when we got back from break, and I said, look at this, here, let's make a music video. I said, let's make a music video. So they said, okay, we'll make a music video. And they, so then they started to, I said, well, we're gonna vote on, we'll do a lip sync, and you make suggestions, we'll take some suggestions. And so then they made all kinds of suggestions. And then we finally, they voted on High School Musical. I had no knowledge of High School Musical. Now, some of the young people in our audience, that you might know High School Musical, but I let the children teach me. because I was just like, I was so curious. They loved it so much. And so we did a whole thing. But then I said, but I would like to teach you a dance that we're going to insert into this presentation. So I'm going to show you this dance, but let me just, I want to tell you, I'm excited. I want to tell you a little bit about where this dance comes from, because this past summer, I've been, can we just say this once? Pandemic, okay? And changes. And I was just like going through some changes, and I've been locked up in my house. I went and got me a pandemic puppy 2 years ago. Turns out he's 20% wolf. And I had to figure out how am I going to manage a wolf dog and be in my house and teach. And so then this summer I finally got a break, and I said, I'm going to take this break and I'm going to make a line dance. I'm teaching line dance, and we all know the electric slide. You know, electric slide. Back it up. Drop it down. And you change. Hey. And it's you work the line dance 4 walls. 1 wall, it changes, another wall, another wall, another wall. But it's not a square, people, it makes a circle, okay? It's an affirmation of love and life. And so I was like, aha, I'm gonna use that structure, and I'm gonna make a dance about the pandemic and my feelings about what's happening here and what I need, okay? So here it is, it's very simple. It's just step, step, it repeats and repeats. Okay, that's just representing embodied language now. This is embodied language, okay? That represents our paths. We're moving from side to side, okay? So we repeat that. You have to, sometimes you gotta repeat stuff, right? So you step, step, goes to this side. And then this is the fun part. You pivot, you gotta pivot, step, pivot, switch. You gotta do it twice. And then you gotta shake it on down, shake it on down. Now there's something in the Africanist aesthetic that I learned through my study of Catherine Dunham that's called the get down quality. And you all know this, Black and brown people, you know this, because when you're in the club and you're dancing and that beat drops, and what happens? You go, oh, hey, you get down. You get down. So I wanted to put the get down quality in my dance. So step, pivot, switch, get on down, get on down. The last part is the part where you switch lines. And I wanted to do this at the beginning of my presentation, but it's okay. You pull all the love. You pull all the love. Let me tell you this one little tiny story before I continue. I was watching Queen Dr. Bertice Berry this morning. Y'all know her? She had a talk show in the 90s, and right now, since the pandemic, she just comes on Facebook Live, or sometimes records, and she tells a story a day. And I mean, I would like to say I watch it every day, but I don't. But this morning, I picked it up, and there she was, and I was like on a live, and I said, oh, there's just 112 people on. Let me just type in. So I said, good day, Queen Dr. Bertice Berry, sending you love from Seattle. And she gave me a shout out. But that's not the point. The point is, what was she talking about? And if you know anything about Dr. Bertice Berry, she's got these big oversized glasses and a close crop head, and she makes her own clothes, and she really is a queen in that regard. And the people that were chatting with her kept saying stuff, talk about your glasses, talk about your outfit, talk about your hair, Dr. Berry. And she said this, I had to write it down. She said, if you really want to ask me a question, ask me where my love comes from. Okay. She let us have it. So here's that last, this is where, think about where your love comes from. When you do this part, think about all the love that you receive from all the places that you receive it, and bring that into your heart. Okay, so we've just done step, step, pivot, switch, shake it on down, shake it on down. Love and love. And you just have to rock with that love. And then you're facing the next wall and you start over. You can clap if you need. This part right here. Step, step, switch, shake it on down, shake it on down. Love yourself. Love yourself. And so this is the dance that I taught to my students. I taught it to the whole faculty at the beginning of the year, and I taught it to my students. I'm teaching it to you, and I'd love for us to do it.
Can we get a YouTube video? Where's the YouTube video? Come on, dear one. We need to see the video. Well, we need it. It's 4:33 right now.
Okay, well, let's cut it. But I wanted to show just the clip of my students dancing it. Would that be of interest or no?
Please show it. Please.
I have it queued up, as a matter of fact.
And let me just say this, for any of our beloved participants who need to leave, thank you for being with us today. But don't go nowhere if you don't have to. What do you have to do right now that's more important than seeing the greatest thing next to the electric slide? Come on, y'all, this is history. It's history in the making right now.
Okay,
and y'all hearing it from its creator. Let's go.
Okay, here it is. These are my okay, this is I think it's hilarious. Okay, here we go.
Sorry, heaven that we can't reach. If we try. The world you see in a way different than who we are. Creating space between us till we're set behind. But your faith gives the strength to believe. We're breaking free.
Look at that little shorty, y'all. Look at that little shorty. Oh my God. That pivot though. Love, pure love. Perfect. Oh Lord. That's what it's all about. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh.
It's almost over. Uh-oh. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Could y'all imagine having Professor or Instructor Professor Jones as your instructor and infusing you with love? What a, yeah, if y'all not feeling an abundance overflowing love in your heart right now, then you must not be human being, because I'm feeling a whole lot of love right now. Thank you so much. It is just absolutely a wonderful way to conclude our event. Thank you so much for sharing the love that you share. Can we just outpour the love right back to you right now? Everybody, please, outpouring of love to Instructor Jones, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a wonderful way to conclude with, Belle's work and life and tribute and honor in honor of Belle. Love, just
That's
love.
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are so thankful to the 26 of y'all who are down for the cause and who hung around. We certainly want to offer a space for dialogue from all of this wonderfulness that we've shared this afternoon. I would love to revisit and open this up to my colleagues, to my fam, to revisit some of the questions, reflections on any of the segments that we participated in today. Maybe we can revisit some of the questions, Dr. William, if you'd like to share, because that was a piece that we kind of left hanging. And for everybody who has to go, we honor your time and we thank you for joining us today. And you better believe we're going to do something like this again. You better believe. But Dr. William, would you like to share some points, the slide with the points for dialogue and reflection? And then for anybody who would love to contribute, we want to hear your voice. We value your voice. Maybe we'll keep going for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, if that feels good.
Sounds like a plan. Let me see. Do you have my questions up? I'm trying to see what you see.
I see them.
Okay, with Belle on it?
Yep.
All right. Okay.
There is one question that I would love to say. Where are we going to be able to view the recording of the Zoom? Okay, I will make sure that if any of you are here as students, I will make sure that professors share the recording once it's done. I will also post it. Oh boy, let me think about this, how we're going to post it. Maybe we'll post this recording is going to be on YouTube. Hey y'all, there it is right there. We are going to record it to what is called the Amari series on YouTube. So remember that name, the Amari series, and you can go to YouTube and you'll be able to watch this entire panel presentation. Thank you for asking. The Amari series on YouTube. All right, y'all. As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop the link in right now just so that y'all have it. And in the meantime, we can talk about the questions.
All right. You want me to read these off, Doc?
Please.
Okay, so there are 4 questions just for those who might want to engage around any of this. And again, we're talking about language here. Don't worry about trying to sound a certain way, to engage in a certain way. So there are 4 questions. In what ways have you or your students, for those who teach, been impacted by the language of oppression? Number 1. Number 2, in what ways might your cultural language or communication style differ from mainstream English? Number 3, if you are a student, in what ways can teachers, professors be more supportive of your cultural language styles? And number 4, in what ways might we transform our practice to appreciate the integration of cultural language forms? That's for y'all teachers and professors. That's for us to think about. So just want to open it up for people to be able to just kind of share out. And I can't see you all with my Zoom screen share, but I know Dr. H can kind of
yes,
facilitate that part.
Sure.
Okay.
So again, to anyone who had something that was on the tip of your tongue, wanting to talk about, or if you want to reflect to any of these questions, you can post it in the chat, or you can just feel free. We have a more intimate group right now, and you can just say it out loud, please. This is your space for the 19 of you who are still here.
Don't be shy.
Suzanne, please.
I was trying not to be the first person to speak, sorry.
Please be the first person, please.
Question number 4 really appealed to me. I'm wondering how we can, I don't want to say challenge, but something to that effect of getting the respect for the different cultural language forms to somehow be improved, so that even like the people who either oppose it or don't engage with it that way can be challenged to see the beauty in that language, to find the respect that is integral in using of that language and what it means to the people who use it. I'm just wondering how we can better practice that versus just being in the classroom or a space like that, but just even amongst ourselves or amongst how we interact with people in general on the campus community.
Great question, right? When I think about this, I think about this. What does it mean when we say to another person, I see you? I see you, right? When we speak about humanizing our educational institutions, humanizing our practice, humanizing society, we can't really use that term and not see somebody. And seeing them also means affirming who they are, how they speak, how they exist in the world, right? And that comes out of this place, I think, threading back to what, that thread that runs through all the presentations. What does it really mean to love humanity and love other people? I can't love you if I can't fully see you and want to embrace that, right? So that's what comes to mind for me. I'll pass the mic to somebody else who might want to chime in on that point.
I will say, as you know, an English teacher of many years, I taught high school for 18 years before I transitioned to higher education. One way that I consider and contemplate transforming practice is to ease up on the rigidness or the rigidity of grading for proper English. Now, that's not to say that structure and grammar can go to the wayside, but to allow for the expression, a more free-flowing expression that stems from one's cultural frame and funds of knowledge is one way that I think we can begin to transform by easing up on the rigidity of expectation of quote unquote proper English.
And that's a tension, right? Because you'll have many educators who will say, well, I'm preparing them for the workplace. Well, what does that mean? Are you speaking of written language, of discourse in that, in that manner, right? That register? Or are we speaking about what is appropriate for communicating ideas and demonstrating intellect? Because intellect has no standard, right? There is vast and wide, right? All communities demonstrate intellect in their speech or non-speech. What about ASL, right? Where it's not spoken, right? So, or when we see that all throughout institutional spaces, particularly corporate America, non-standard language forms are a commodity that is utilized for profit. People are making money. There are jobs where people are utilizing these so-called non-standard forms and they're making lots of money from those forms. But then we tell the communities where these forms come from that you are not allowed to use your own language. How does that work, right? So, I think we need to be more honest with ourselves about what are we really imposing or what are we really communicating when we say it must look like this? Knowing that there's much more variance and, it's an interesting dialectic. So I'm gonna pass the mic.
reminds me of earlier when you said, and why are we doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, speak more on that.
When you say like preparing someone for the workplace, it's putting the burden on that person to understand that there's going to be a different sphere that they have to exist within to find their way to exist within it, and that some people who will be wonderful will remind them that they are actually going to be learning 2 languages. You're going to be learning the one you want to speak and you can intuitively speak, and then you're going to be learning this other language of this other entity, whether it be corporate world or whether it be academia, or, you know, so that it almost means like we can actually remind them that they are multilingual, and that is actually more than some people speak. And so kind of define that, to find that appreciation for their skill. If you're able to do this, then obviously you're very talented. You know, almost just not to not also call it out that it is actually kind of wrong that it is imposed on you to do this, but because you can, at least be proud of what you can achieve. But like I said, I also just wish it was better out there where people like me, who kind of always have enforced that, can be reminded of like, is this really what you want to be doing? Do you want to be a proponent of that ideology any longer? So.
I would love to pose to our collective, you know, if you are a student, or I mean, all of us were a student at one point, you know, in what ways might we have appreciated our educators? You know, what could they have done, or what could they still be doing that would make you know, us feel heard and make us feel validated, you know, for our language, regardless of whether we are fluent English or not, or regardless of whether we can write or whether we have mastered you know, the grammar of English. Is there anybody who can speak to a suggestion that you may have? Or maybe we can move to a different question.
What I was thinking is I like hearing someone who gets not interrupted when they use anything that kind of has person kind of go, huh, what? You know, like they're confused because they weren't expecting that word or that structure or that grammar. I really appreciate when I watch somebody who just acts like, you see a little blip on their eyes, like, oh, they're confused, but then the other person doesn't really get that read because they weren't interrupted. And so the other person just keeps going and flowing and doing their thing. And then I like when the other person kind of just either shows that they didn't quite understand and asks for more clarification, to say, I'm the person who has the problem understanding. It's not you who has a problem communicating. But then also I like when they just reuse those words in their sentence. And it sounds really funny because it's not their normal word choice, but it just shows I learned from you and I'm trying to practice what I learned with you because you will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. You know, it kind of reminds me of like when we practice a foreign language with someone, it's the same thing. It's like, this is a foreign language to the person and they're trying to use this word or this different way of conveying a thought. And so I like it when I see people do that kind of humbleness where they never let the other person know that there was some kind of an awkwardness by never calling it out, and just also just showing the humbleness of learning at that moment and then growing from it. So
I think it's also important for those of us who are educators in, you know, in this group at this point, you know, is to also include representations of expertise, of professionals in your various disciplines that don't sound like they speak perfect English, that represent a variety of cultures and languages and accents. Because, you know, if as a student in a class, your brain you make connections and your brain functions differently when you hear a voice that reflects your home culture or the beautiful accent of the people that you grew up with. You connect to that lesson and to those words in a different way. So I think it's important that, we break out of, our box of who we deem experts, and include, those individuals that reflect the beauty and the diversity and the cultures of our students, so that they will connect in different ways.
That's right.
And thank you so much, Suzanne, for being the first and the only voice that we've heard so far. There's some really powerful people in the group. I'm wondering if we can open up to just a general reflection on anything that you heard today. It's why y'all hanging in there. We're pushing almost 2 hours at this point. This is fantastic. Nina, would you like to share? I see that you're showing your screen now.
Yeah, I just was really blown away by the presentation. I love Ms. Hooks, so this panel was really amazing, and I'm happy that I got to participate as part of Women's History Month. And I really appreciated the specificity to AAVE. There was a lot that was presented that I was not even aware of, and I like to think that I'm pretty well read on stuff, but there's things that I didn't quite understand, and so every time I get an opportunity to learn, I'm excited, because it helps move the needle forward for equity for all. So
right,
thank you so much. And the dance was so cute. Oh my gosh. That was so cool to see the young people dancing and using that new form of expression, and to have that message of joy and love. I love that he really related it back to that love practice. What a great basis for your activism, right? We're going to do love, and here we go. And now we're going to, I'm just inspired. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And isn't that the beauty of a presentation, when you can walk away and say, I'm walking away with something new and valuable. Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk it? Yeah.
After all this time, we can still learn something new. But yes, Brother Elvin, it just exudes love. He can't help it. He can't help it. You're gonna feel it. So it was wonderful to share. And we might have witnessed history, because the electric slide had to start from somewhere. So I don't know what he's gonna call this. He might have to call it something. Electric love. What you gonna call? I'm gonna call him and say, what are you calling this dance?
Because I want those dance classes at our institution. How cool would that be if we could have that? That would be so great.
True. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yes, we're gonna, we got 5 minutes. I think we'll probably shut down at 5. It's been a long day. And y'all are some troopers.
I know. I'm
impressed. Soldiers here right now. I'm gonna read what Melissa wrote in the chat. I was saying chat and quote at the same time. There was a quote that stuck with me throughout the presentation. It is the following: never be afraid to reinvent yourself. And I think it is so important to remember that as long as we live, we have the opportunity to make a change within ourselves or within our community. Yes. Right?
Yes.
It's never too late. That's the beauty of life. Every minute, every second of breath is a new opportunity to be a better human being, and to be open and to love more, right?
That's right.
That's what it is to be alive. That's when you feel your humanity, right? Love is the true feeling of being human and being alive. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melissa. And okay, there's one more. Isaac says these presentations really do give me a refreshed view about social issues in America. It was interesting. Thank you very much. We're getting some thanks in the chat. We appreciate that. I think we can wrap it up. If there, last call, y'all. Last call. I ain't saying y'all gotta go home. But you're gonna leave this Zoom in 3 minutes. Are there any last minute reflections from anybody? I see, 9 people still here.
Man, hats off to you.
Okay.
We have to be here.
Okay, yeah, right. Thank you, everybody, for this presentation, being a part of it. We seek to make the ancestor as Bell Hooks is now an ancestor in a different realm. And we were seeking to please her and to honor her, because she was concerned that the work would continue. And it is these conversations that will continue to keep her work alive, and to keep her mission and her legacy going. Because even though she may not be with us in the physical, she's certainly with us in the essence and in spirit. And this was the opportunity for that spirit to come alive and to touch everybody. So thank you so much for participating and being part of it. And I'm floating right now. I just might fly out of my room. I'm so energized by everything that just happened. But good. So Melissa, we got a new reader. Okay, let's just say this before we leave. What's a starter book? What's a good starter book for Melissa? What would you say?
Oh my gosh.
It's hard, right?
Yes, it is hard.
Are you a student, Melissa?
Did she drop in chat? Let me look.
Oh, Tammy, Dr. Cheshire says from margin to center.
Margin to center, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For sure.
I love teaching to transgress. I don't know if oh, there you go. Okay. We have Professor Mersman here as well. Teaching to transgress.
Yeah.
You said the same thing that I said, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, Dr. William?
Definitely teaching to transgress. I mean, I'm a lover of all Bell, but teaching to transgress, definitely. Feminism is for everybody.
Ah, okay.
Oh, class matters. Class matters.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think once you start with Bell, you can't put Bell down. I just think that she just offers so much on so many.
Get hooked. You're gonna get hooked.
Literally. So.
Okay. Whew. Yeah. Dr. Cheshire.
Malika, this was amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Hood. Thank you so much for all of this. This is
no, you know what? I can't take any credit. This is the power of the ancestors. Can I say Dr. Cheshire is the chair of Native American Studies? Is it Native American Studies, Indigenous Studies?
No, it's just ethnic studies. We don't have a separate Native Studies department, but I teach Native American Studies.
Okay, but this powerful force that is with us right now is doing the most amazing things for the movement in Los Rios, in Sacramento. I don't think I've ever met a more committed individual. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having this. Bell Hooks is my heart. She transformed me in my life. I would have, if I didn't read her in college, I don't know where I would be right now.
True.
So thank you so much for honoring her. And for doing this. And Malika, I'm honored by you. And
no. I cannot
I'm
accept.
so happy that you are my sister, that we are in this together, and you are doing so much too. So much.
Well, thank you so much. It's good to see you in a meeting that's not an ethnic studies faculty council meeting. Good to see you in a different space.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to jump off, but I do want to share my thanks to you and how I enjoyed this. I love this. This was amazing.
Stay tuned. We're gonna hook up another one. You best believe.
I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Take care. We'll talk soon. I know I'm gonna talk to you in a second anyway. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Okay, folks, is there
All
anything, is there anybody else before we wrap up for the evening? I still see Lorraine, Melissa, Nicolette. Whoo, y'all some troopers.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Before we end the meeting, is there anything else that y'all would like to add?
I think we're probably good.
We're good. We're good. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Dr. William.
Oh, mad props, Dr. H. Are you going to hang on for a bit?
I am. I'm going to end our recording right now.
Okay.